folks, Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Coming with a blog post I want to share with you. Of course, we review the latest in social media and technology, and we're doing a ton of videos on the new iPhone 5. It just launched yesterday, and we've gotten a hold of a device from our AT&T accounts, and basically we're running it through the whole process of versing it between iPhone 4S and other comparative products across the market. So be sure to check out our videos on YouTube and subscribe to the chrisvossshow.com channel, and you can search through the chrisvossshow.com and just look for iPhone 5. You'll see all the videos that are popping up and comparisons we're doing. Today we're doing a versus comparison with the AT&T Samsung Galaxy S3. Now, the Samsung has been provided to us by the AT&T PR folks. Thank you to AT&T for helping us out there. And be sure to check out amzn.to, their wireless section. You can see all the wonderful phones. You can also see the great phones on the Chris Voss Show that we reviewed a number of their stuff. Watch for our future upcoming of other Galaxy products and Nokia products with the Windows base OS in the next coming while. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Let's get into the details here. We're going to compare both these phones. The iPhone 5 is running on the OS 6.0, which is the latest version, and the Samsung Galaxy is running on the latest version available to it for Android, which is Android 4.04. And it is slated to come out with Jelly Bean sometime in October 2012. If you're watching this video at a later time. The iPhone 5 has a height of 4.87 inches, 2.31 in width, and 0.30 in thickness. You can obviously see there definitely is a size difference here, especially screen-wise, where you can see the difference in the sizes. Here you can see that obviously the S3 is much wider, bigger, and also has a larger screen. But what's interesting is the Samsung Galaxy numbers 5.38 in height, 2.78 in width, but 0.34 in thickness. So the iPhone 4 beats it in thickness by 0.04, which isn't much, but it's interesting they can pack as much as they can into these smaller units. So I'll let you interpret whatever that means. The weight on the iPhone 5 is 3.95 ounces, which comes in much lighter than the Galaxy S3 at 4.69 ounces. So it beats it by a good 0.70 and some change, 0.074 in ounces. So almost 3/4 of an ounce that it weighs less on the iPhone 5. The iPhone 5 is very amazing. Getting rid of all the glass really lightened the device up. The physical size of it is a 4-inch screen. The physical size of the screen going from one corner to the other on the Samsung Galaxy S3 is 4.80 inches, so definitely beats the iPhone 5 by 0.80 inches in screen size. The resolution for the iPhone 5 is, 640 by 1136 pixels, and it has a pixel density of 326 ppi, whereas the resolution for the S3 is much larger. It's 720 by 1280 pixels with less pixel density. It has 306 ppi. Now it has a Super AMOLED screen on the Samsung Galaxy S3. On the iPhone 4S, it's a technology called IPS LCD, capacitive multi-touch screen, and both, of course, are capacitive multi-touch screens, I should say. There's just Super AMOLED on the S3. Basically, with the Retina display you have on the iPhone 5, it's a much different process. Battery standby time is 9.4 days on the iPhone 5, and talk time on 3G 8 hours. 22 hours of talk time on the battery on the S3, and standby time 34 days. And I should say talk time 3G is 11.6 hours. They do that now where they change it between 4G and 3G. The iPhone 5 is the first iPhone that has 4G technology on it, so it now is comparative to the Samsung Galaxy S3, where it has also 4G LTE capability to it. The Apple iPhone is working off of an Apple A6 chip. Now it has some architectural processing to it that's pretty innovative, that's made it one of the fastest, well, the fastest smartphone that's on the market, as you'll see in the benchmarking that we'll show you. And what that does is the architectural build on it will take and give you basically a much faster speed. They're both dual-core processors. The processor in the Apple iPhone is referred to as 100 or 1,000 megahertz. I've seen a few different variations of what it exactly is. Has one gigabyte of RAM, and built-in storage is 16 gigs. And with the Samsung Galaxy S3, you're looking at, it has a quad-core, excuse me, I said it had a dual-core, didn't I? It had a quad-core, 1400 megahertz ARM, Cortex A9. It has 1 gigabyte of RAM. Built-in storage is 32 gigabyte that you can do, and it has storage that's expandable to 64 gigabytes. For the camera on the iPhone 5, you're looking at 8 megapixels. They've done some enhancements to the optics. You're looking at 920 by 1080, which is true 1080p HD, 30 frames per second, and a front-facing camera at 1.2 megapixels. With the rear camera on the Samsung Galaxy S3, you're looking at 8 megapixels with the same sort of frames per second, 1080p HD, but the front-facing camera does beat out the iPhone 5 camera. It's 1.9 megapixels on the front-facing camera, so it beats it by a good 0.6 pixels, if you will. Let's take a look at the rest of it. I think that pretty much covers the comparisons we want to do between the two different devices. So they're built really well and extraordinary devices. You can't say enough about both devices as being great phones, and actually they're both my favorite. I've fallen completely in love with the Samsung, and now of course with the new iPhone 5 I've fallen completely in love with it again. So this is going to be a hard test to see which one we like in the end. Let's start taking a look at the devices and seeing what's on them. You can see here with the iPhone 5, we have the camera in the upper left. We have a small, what appears to be a microphone hole, and the flash lens. We also have, of course, the logos and all that good stuff. Now, what they've done with this is they put two glass backs on the bottom and top here so that they can transmit the antennas for both Wi-Fi and to get to the cell towers. And then they put like a, I'm not sure what the particular metal is, but it's a metal, galvanized, whatever you want to call it, very beautifully finished steel metal that's on the back of the device. I really like this build a whole lot more because I've chipped and broken a number of backs on the iPhone 4 and 4S, and I love having a 50-50 chance of the only thing I can really everything I can really break is the front of the iPhone 4, or the iPhone 5, I should say, excuse me. On the Galaxy S3, we're looking at, you've got a flash, you do have a camera lens here. Now what we've done is we've glued on a special magnetized mount that we can put lenses on that were originally made for the iPhone 4S, and we've actually done that with the Galaxy S3, so it's very cool. So it normally won't look like this. There's a very beautiful looking camera lens behind that, and then there's a speaker that's right here, albeit small. It seems to do a pretty good job. You can see, of course, the logos down the side and back. Let's flip these over and we'll take a look at the fronts of them once again. In taking a look at the front of them, you can see here that we've got, they both have very big, beautiful screens and very nice. On the front we have what I believe is the face sensor that senses when your face is close to the device and takes and turns off the screen so that you're not getting a sunburn from radiation of all the screen against your face. It also has the speaker for making calls, and then you have your front-facing camera now up here. Bit of a change with the iPhone 5. The Samsung has, of course, the speaker across the top for your calls. It has a front-facing camera on the far right here. There's some different sensors here. One is most likely the face sensor that adjusts for your face. Home buttons are very simple on the iPhone. Of course, there's just the main single button for making those changes. There's a home button in the center of the Galaxy Samsung S3, and all that good stuff. Now, one thing it does have, you saw them light up briefly, there is a menu system on the left, and there's also a back button on the right-hand side that will take you back. It's kind of a great thing. I've used this so much that every now and then on the iPhone I find myself trying to go backwards going like this. So let's take a look at the outer parts of the iPhone and the Galaxy S3. Okay, now we're looking now at the bottoms of the iPhone and the S3. You can see here the iPhone 5 has now moved the hole for the earphone to the bottom of the device. It has a really cool speaker grill system, and it has a very beautifully done plug-in system. If you can see, it's got kind of a chrome mirrored insert that surrounds it. Gives it a great look. In my opinion. There's also beveled edges around the finished edges around the device now that normally weren't there in the prior models. We'll talk about that here in a second. On the Samsung Galaxy S3, you're looking at a plug hole for a micro USB, of course, for charging and syncing, which is what this is also for, and the microphone hole to pick up sound there. One thing I do want to mention going back to the iPhone 5 is I love the new plug. There's a lot of people that are complaining about it, but I love the new plug. One of the great things about it that people have really overlooked is they've made the plug to where it can be plugged in either way, left, right. You don't have to plug it in a certain way to get it to go in like you do the micro USB. I'm very happy about that. It takes a lot of effort constantly. Sometimes you're charging your phone in the middle of the night because you wake up and you're like, I gotta charge my phone tomorrow. So you're always trying to figure out which way to plug in the thing, and you're always plugging in the wrong way. I mean, that's just Murphy's Law. So I love this new plug on the iPhone 5. I think it's even better than what's on the Android products, because on the Android products you still have to get it right. And the darn plug is so small that maybe I'm getting so old that my eyesight sucks. You can't see the plug very well. So that's my opinion on that. Okay, so here you can see we have the tops of the devices. Pretty simple of the stuff and data that goes on here. We have the kind of a steel or metal, beautifully done power switch. Here on the S3 we have a small microphone hole, a small insert to pull off the back. We'll show you that here in a second. And an earphone jack, if you will. Okay, so now down the left side of the device you can see that we have a mute switch here on the left-hand side of the iPhone 5. We also have buttons for the volumes up and down, beautifully classically designed. I really like the elegant look of them. There's also a rocker button for the volume up and down on the left side of the Samsung Galaxy S3. Okay, so here we can see down the right side of the devices. Now the iPhone has something that's innovative now. It's called the Nano SIM, which is smaller than a micro SIM card, and they've made a much smaller hole to insert it into the device. You know, they're just basically running out of real estate in all these phones as they try and make them smaller and faster. Along the right side of the Samsung Galaxy S3, you have the power button. I do like the power button on this side. It's very much more comfortable to me, and it works very well for me as opposed to some other Androids that have the power button on the top. I actually like the power button right there. Okay, so what we have here is, let's show you the back. Now the back on the iPhone is sealed up. You can't open it. You can't expand the memory. The only memory you can get is by buying a more expensive phone. They come in several different flavors: 16 gigabytes of memory, 32 gigabytes of memory, and 64 gigabytes of memory. The Samsung Galaxy S3 back does come off, not only to insert the chip for your SIM card, but also to insert a micro SD card where you can expand the memory up to 64 gigabytes. The backing of the device is fairly plastic, but it actually does, some people complain about it, but it actually looks nice on the device. You don't really notice it, and it actually really helps give the device some bounce. The outsides of the device on the Samsung Galaxy S3 are plastic. Some people have called them plasticky, but they appear to be very solid, and they've actually survived quite a bit of drops that I've done with the phone. So I've actually been pretty happy that it doesn't have, I don't know, the plastic nature of it tends to absorb some shock, because I've dropped it a couple times thinking that it's bought the farm. The iPhone, on the other hand, especially with the 4 and the 4S, is not that prone to drops, or surviving drops, I suppose I should say. So I do like the new build of the iPhone 5 because it is more stylish. There is less exposed glass than there has been in the prior 4 and 4S models, and so we're happy for that. You can see that the glass has been eliminated. It normally sticks out the front and the back by quite a bit. So the build on the iPhone 5 is very beautiful, and it's a solid metal frame. It's a solid, glass and great steel build. So it does feel like a great phone in your hand. One thing I do want to point out, and we noticed this more on the iPhone 4 or the iPhone 5 white version, that it has a mirrored beveled edges on both sides of the screen. You can almost see your face in it if you look just right. And it gives an accent to the phone that is just very beautiful. On the iPhone 4 and 4S, it just looks like a rough steel band, where this kind of has a little bit more beautiful edge you can see there that gives it a kind of a shine and a spark to it. Where the S3, it's a very beautiful phone. It's rounded. In comparison, a little bit dull in its accent or impressions that way, but inside it's a rocking phone, and I don't see that as a detriment in any way. It really is up to you and your personal taste, and you are looking, like I say, at two of the fastest, most beefiest production processing, all that great stuff phones that you'll see here in a second benchmarking. So I don't think that's a slight to either phone. It just depends on what you like. These phones both rock, and I'd highly recommend either one of them. So let's get more in depth as to what these phones will do and how they'll do it. Let's take a look at the speed tests that we've done on both phones. Now we'll go ahead and pull these up. Now you may notice that we are using the Wi-Fi in these cases. We were not using the Wi-Fi when we pulled these speed tests, and so the log that we're pulling into is from a prior date that we use these. You can see even the date's a different date. So what we're doing is pulling these speed tests from AT&T on both devices, because they are with AT&T. You can see there's an incredible difference in the amount of downloaded data that came from the iPhone 5. Now, it has a faster processor than the Samsung Galaxy S3, has the ability to really rock and roll. We've also seen that it's beaten the Samsung Galaxy 3 in every smartphone on the market, with the ability to JavaScript and be able to do processor on the browser speeds. So it's incredibly fast and can suck and you can see download and upload an incredible amount of data. So there's your numbers. Both of these were done on 4G LTE networks, and you can see here that processor makes the difference. Speed test, gotta love it. Both these phones are working on the latest available OSs for them. This is OS 6, iOS 6 over here on the iPhone 5, and this is 4.0 for Android on the Samsung Galaxy S3, which at this point in time is the latest available update for them. You can see some of the data here when it comes to the ARM7s. Now, evidently what Apple has done is in their ARM7 chip, they have made it super fast and super speedy to where the gigahertz is kind of, when you compare them side by side here, there's a distinct difference in the architecture of the build. So let's go ahead and run the benchmarks and see how it compares. And we'll run a number of benchmarking facilities here so you can see them. What we're seeing so far from all the news media and everybody else who runs benchmarks is it looks like the iPhone probably beats Galaxy S3 hands down almost every time. So let's see if truth is really out there, and we're going to find out. Of course, we're going to give you some comparisons. Now, the great thing about watching a video on the Chris Voss Show or the Chris Voss channel is you can download most of the apps that we're using. They're free, both on the Android, and I think you do have to pay for some of them, like they're fairly inexpensive on the iOS product. What's great is you can do your own benchmarking and compare the numbers we're presenting to you here and decide for yourself if the current phone that you're looking at, playing with, is a phone that you may want to upgrade to either of these devices. Now you can see here, wow, 1602. That's the first reading of the Geekbench iOS product came out at 1601. So 1602 is what we got for the iPhone 5. The Galaxy Samsung S3 scored much lower, I usually see this score about 1500, but 1479 in this particular case. You can see here on integer scores, the iPhone 5 outpaced it by quite a bit, 1256 compared to 1021. The floating point, 2086 compared to, I stand a little corrected, I guess. The floating point on the Samsung Galaxy S3 beat it at 2402. The memory, 1887. The memory on the Samsung Galaxy S3 didn't do as good at 1263. And the stream process for the iPhone 5 really kicked butt, 951 against 293 for the Samsung Galaxy S3. Let's page down. We can look at the system information that we have here, and you can kind of see the details of what OSs and things that these are working with. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S3, it should be pointed out, will later get Jelly Bean Update, which is the latest, coolest thing to come out of the Android OS system. It'll be interesting to see if there's any effect that goes on from that update in the performance, speed, and benchmarking of those devices, of the Samsung Galaxy S3. So stay tuned and watch for that. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that when that update comes out, we'll of course be doing a whole set of new benchmarking just for you folks at home. So you can see here the breakdowns of the performance, and then like I said, what's really great about these details is you can compare them to your phones at home. Okay, so let's take a look at how the Passmark performance test benchmarks did. So you can find this app on both the iOS devices, and you can find it on the Android devices. I think it's free on most Android devices, and I think it'll cost you $1 or $2 on the iOS product. Now, so what we have here is the system scored pretty much 3,999 against the system on the Galaxy S3 of 2,094. Really huge numbers here. We're seeing massive numbers out of the iPhone 5 that have just been really surprising in comparisons with the iPhone 4S, just blowing the iPhone 4S away by 2 to 3 times. Again, you can see some of the comparisons here. CPU, 25,057 it scored, whereas the CPU on the Galaxy S3, only 5,211. That's That's a little more than 4 times, almost 5 times the amount of scoring when it comes to this. Now, each of these tests are different, and they score different in the way they're done and everything else. So that's why we show you a bunch of them, so that you can see the massive stats and decide for yourself. You can look at the disks, read and write. 15,159 against 3,713. The memory is 3,054 against 2,017 on the GS, on the S3. On the 2D, 1680 against a 1686, the one place where the devices actually came close in scoring numbers to. And then you can see here with the 3D graphics, the 5 scored 1748 against 761. So pretty amazing scoring tests that are going on so far in what we're doing. And you can see here that the iPhone 5 with the new architecture that they put into the V7 ARM is just amazing stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the scores that we got. We're using the GL benchmark 2.1.5 in both these cases, the Egypt standard. You can see here that the in the top number, which is the one we're looking for, the iPhone 5 performed at 6,777 frames, 60 frames per second. It really rocked. In the Samsung Galaxy S3, didn't come in quite as good with the same benchmarking, 5420 frames at 48 frames per second. Now, not to knock the S3, but that's really good in the comparisons that we do against other Android phones and older iPhones. So it's still a great number for the S3, but looks like the S5 is holding up as being faster. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what's called the SunSpider JavaScript benchmarks. This basically measures how well the devices serve up on a mobile browser. Now, in this case, the lower number is what you're after as opposed to a higher number. The lower number you can get for service and the amount of time it takes to deliver the results is the key. So you can see these here. Hopefully I'll go ahead and give you a better shot at these, and hopefully you can see them through the screen. But the total overall through the SunSpider was for the iPhone 5 891.0 ms. So super freaking fast for service through a browser. And keep in mind, you want the lower score. Higher score means you're going to take longer to serve up the web pages. Here on the right with the Samsung Galaxy S3 came at 2,092 total. So basically the iPhone 5 beat it on a score of, well, about 3 times, if you will. No, I'm sorry, 2 times and then some. On being much faster at giving you web pages. I got to tell you, it does just visually when you're downloading stuff, especially on the 4G network, it makes a huge amount of difference. I actually access my internet stuff more often now on the iPhone 5 than ever before, when I used to just go, oh no, if I'm going to the internet, I'm going on my iPad or my Samsung Galaxy S3. So, okay, so let's talk about some differences between these two devices. The iPhone 5 is running on iOS 6. Now, it has a very simple format to its menu screens and customizations that you can take and do. You have the home button. You basically have a simple screen. If you want to do search, you can pull from the left to the right or the right to the left. As you go through the menu, of course, you can go back and forth, just like we mentioned. And if you want to create folders, you can also do the same. And of course, if you want to just go right to your main menu or your home button, you press the home button and that will take you back to your home screen or search. So you can see it in action there. Not much else you can customize on here. There is a notifications menu, as there also is on the Android. You can see the difference here. One of the things I do like about the Android customization menu is you can have a whole mess of really cool things that you can quickly touch on to take you out of and into different things. In this case, you can see here we can easily turn off our Wi-Fi on and off, our Bluetooth, GPS, sound, screen rotation, sync, all sorts of other things. I like this because I can very quickly turn off my Bluetooth, or if I want to turn on or off my Wi-Fi, I can do that very quickly and easily. I can also easily, from this notifications menu, get into settings, which is very, very nice. It's a little bit more limited on the Galaxy S3, which is unfortunate because I certainly would. There are some interesting things that are now in the iOS 6 where you can now tap to tweet, tap to post. There are a couple different widgets you can get in on this notifications menu, but the unfortunate thing is many of them are fairly limited to what Apple is willing to give you and administer to you. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy S3, many people like the Android product because of its ability to customize widgets, customize how your stuff is presented. There's several different things that you can do. For instance, if you take the key and hold it down, we can go into a recent menu or see which applications are currently running and easily go back to ones that might be running. There is also the ability to create pages. You can have up to 7 different pages on most Android devices, and of course on each of these you can create different widgets, much like you can see here we have a widget for the time and weather, and so it's very cool that way. Now, in going into your apps, you have a thing where you can make apps, and of course you can make folders also, just like you can on the iPhone 5, but what you have is these really cool widgets that you can choose from on the Android product to basically customize your device and the screens on your device. So these are pretty fun, and they tie in with a lot of different apps. You can see Flipboard, Evernote here, Google Voice. They tie in with different apps on your device to give you a better experience. Many people really, really love this feature, and I can't blame it. It's a very beautiful way of interacting with your device and making it much cooler. So I agree there. I wish there was something like this on the iPhone product, iOS product, but there's not. So you can decide which one is your favorite in doing that. Now, one thing that both devices do have, there is the Siri device, which is on the Apple iPhone product. I'm going to get Siri yelling at me here in a second. There is also on the Samsung Galaxy S3 a competitor sort of app that they've tried to make with it called S-Voice. And I do like the S-Voice a lot better. Well, I haven't given it sufficient testing on the Siri on the iPhone 5. Siri on iPhone 5 does seem to understand me a whole lot more than the iPhone 4S did under the iOS 5. So I've been a lot more happier with Siri on the iPhone 5 so far. But I have really loved and enjoyed the Samsung Galaxy S3 voice. It's been great in understanding what I do, and it also has wake-up commands that you can take and do. Watch this. Wake up. Wake up. Well, there we go. So we just had to give it a second. So you can see here you can actually wake up the phone by using verbal commands. The other thing is the wake up command will pull it out of standby. If you're going to standby mode on both phones, it makes it a little hard when you're pulling them out. You've got to swipe this. The great thing about the Samsung Galaxy S3 is you can program it to, if I had the swipe touch mode that you have to pull it out of standby here, we could just say wake up and it would wake the phone and pull it up out of standby. The other great thing I do love about the Samsung is it has the customizable features of being able to turn off the stupid swipe stuff or whatever to pull it out of standby. As you can see, my phone just comes up with what I program. It also, if you do have it, initially comes out of the box with a beautiful kind of ripple water effect on the screen to pull it out of standby, and you just basically swipe your fingers over it. You don't have to swipe in any direction. It's another thing that I really love about the Samsung Galaxy S3 product. This is pretty hard for me. I love both phones, and they definitely are freaking awesome when it comes down to it. Okay, so now what we've done is we've done a Skype call to ourselves back and forth here, and of course this is across a localized Wi-Fi. So what this is going to do is show us here how well the front-facing cameras on both devices process and send the front-facing camera data over, say for instance, a Skype call. I'll let you decide which one's the better image. Of course, the Samsung is showing the image coming from the iPhone 5, and the iPhone 5 is showing the image coming from the Samsung S3. So I'll let you decide. Okay, so now what we've done is we've turned off the Wi-Fi, and we're doing a Skype call using AT&T's 4G LTE network on both devices, and you can see here the results we're getting from that. Obviously, not using a localized Wi-Fi will make a bit of difference in the two devices. I like the image that's coming to me from the Samsung Galaxy S3. It of course has a front-facing 1.9 megapixel camera as opposed to the 1.2 on the iPhone 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1.2, 1.3, I can't remember exactly. It's 1.2 if I remember. So anyway, the image comes across very well, and it feeds across AT&T's 4G LTE network just fine when it comes to this video. So yeah, whether you're using localized Wi-Fi or using the 4G network on AT&T, seems to work great on both phones, and I'll let you decide which image is better in your minds and which phone will work better. But I do think the Samsung Galaxy S3 is presenting a better image to me. Okay, so let's give the Siri and the S voice comparatively on each device a run for their money, and we'll just test it really quick so you can kind of see how they operate. We're not going to really put these through the paces. Find me some pizza.
I found 6 pizza restaurants. 4 of them are fairly close to you.
So that gives you an example of Siri and how she responds and how she interacts with you. Let's go ahead and try the Samsung. Find me some pizza. Find me some pizza. There we go. Now, as you can see here, we've noticed in testing the Samsung is a little bit slower, but sometimes you can't even get through to Siri because of something is going on with Apple and their Wi-Fi. So it's not always a perfect system on either device.
Here's a list of places I found.
Okay, so you can see kind of a bit of an example of both devices. Now, the Siri is supposed to have been improved on the iPhone 5, and from what I can tell it is. I really hated Siri on the iPhone 4S. I really was not happy about it, and it didn't understand me most of the time. So it's up to you to choose which device you would like the most. With the iPhone, it has a very simple camera and not a lot of customization you can do with the Samsung S3 as an example. You do have the ability to control your flash modes in both video and shutter camera mode. You can add some grid, HDR. There's some panorama here, which is pretty interesting. This is a newer thing from the iOS where you can screen roll across it. It's up to you. I don't do many panorama photos. Play with it. I don't know if it's great or not. There's some people saying apps are better that are out there in the marketplace, and since Apple's new to it, maybe it's not as good. There's front-facing, rear-facing camera. Of course, you can switch between. You have a simple switch here to switch between video mode and camera mode. You've got your shutter button here on the right-hand side, and that's pretty much it. When you do take a photo and it comes out of post-edit, you have the ability to edit out just a smidgen, a little bit. You can rotate the picture, you can add enhance the brightness, which is automatically controlled, take out red eye, and you can also crop a picture. That's pretty much the post-editing procedures you have that are built into the iPhone. Keep in mind you can add apps and do post-editing, and that's what most people do. But we just want to show you the menus so that you can get a good idea as to how they work. Okay, so now let's take a look at the camera on the Galaxy S3. Okay, now what we have is we have a lot more customization you can do in adjusting your shots on the S3 and the Android product. Of course, this is what it's largely based upon. So there's a lot more you can do in adjusting the ISO settings and everything else on your camera with the Galaxy S3 over the iPhone 5. Many people love that. They love having the control over their features and the ability to pre-control their shots, if you will, instead of post-editing with apps as you would do on the iOS products. So let's take a look here. You've got your, of course, here on the right-hand side, your ability to switch between video and taking a camera shot. You also have your shutter button here, and you have in the bottom right your albums, if you will, or photo area. On the upper right or the upper left-hand side, you have your ability to switch between front-facing, rear-facing camera. You can adjust if you want an auto flash or the flash turned on. This is what I'm talking about partially in where you have more control of a shot. You can do burst shots with the Samsung Galaxy S3, and what's great is it can do a set of burst shots, and you can decide which ones you like the best and erase the other ones, or you can continuously shoot very fast. You've got HDR, face detection, smile, beauty, panorama, all this sort of good stuff that you can do with the Samsung. Let's take a look at a few other things here. There's different editors you can put and take and use to edit what your photos are going to look like ahead of time here, which is really nice. And what's really great is it will show you those that edit before you take the photo, or what the photo will look like during the time you're taking that photo with that edit. So that's very cool. A lot of people love that, and in the iOS product you can't really do that. With settings, you can see here all the different ways that you can make settings for the Galaxy Samsung S3. You can adjust flash, shooting mode, scene mode, which is interesting. You can do several different scenes: portrait, landscape, night, sports, all these different ones. This is pretty standard for the Android OS product and gives you a whole lot more customization that you can take and do that you can't do on the iOS. Did I say Android product? If I got that wrong, that's fine. Timer effects you can see here that we can see there. We'll go back into settings. You can adjust your resolution up and down. You can also adjust white balance, ISO, metering that you might want to do, anti-shake, auto contrast, image quality, a whole lot of customizable things that you can do that you can't do with the iOS product. Let's switch over to video, and you'll see much of the same is true here. You've got different ways that you can actually limit stuff for text messaging, recording modes. You can create different settings, of course, for your images, like we talked about before, and you, of course, have the ability to control resolution, white balance, all that good stuff, video quality, and where you store it. You can store it, of course, on the micro SD card that you can take and use for this device, where in the case of the iOS product you cannot do that because it doesn't have an expandable memory. Let's take a look at pictures on both devices. Okay, so let's compare photos between the two devices. Now, I'll let you be the judge of which is the better photo here. I can tell you that the photo on the Samsung S3 does seem to me to be a little bit darker. The blues look a little bit more bluer, the greens look a little bit more darker and green. The reds I'm seeing in the background seem to stick out a little bit more. The iPhone 5 does seem to have a brighter picture to it. Seems to have a little more clarity and less darkness. But like I said, well, you can see the red car in the background in the middle there in the far upper thing. It almost looks more red because of the brightness and also the purple colors of the tree there. I'll let you decide which is the better photo, but that's how I'm interpreting it, and some people have different eyes. We've taken this photo also from the same position exactly as we shot these. So you can see here that it looks like the perspective on both of them are gaining. It's kind of interesting. We held the one camera over the other, and yet one is kind of slided off to the other, if you will. We can see the rear view turn signal on the Blazer on the Samsung, but we can see further on the tree on the right. So I'm not sure if we got this exactly right in holding it, but we tried to as best we could. So it looks like it does give you a great view. We have found that the Samsung S3 does give us just more clear space when it shoots. Obviously it has a much more bigger screen to post stuff on. You can see probably more sky in the Samsung Galaxy S3 also. So let's take a look at some more pictures here. We'll take a look at video. Look, there's some fries, chili fries I had earlier. How about that, Mapples? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to play both videos here for you and let you decide which one's best. You can kind of see some colorization here already, probably. And I'll let you decide which colors you like the best between both devices. Let's go ahead and hit that again so that you can see it and decide for yourself as to which video image you think does the best at presenting them. Okay, so now we'll go to the next image we're going to take and utilize. These were shot at the same distance, so if you have any questions about that, yes, it does look like the Samsung does still pick up more area. The iPhone does look a little bit more clear and more natural to the picture, where the Samsung almost looks like it's hued, maybe in the software, etc., etc. I don't know. I'll let you decide, like I say, at home, which picture you prefer the best. Let's go ahead and we'll switch to video, and you can see which design you might like the best. I can tell you from my eye what I'm seeing. The picture is much clearer in the video on the iPhone 5. We'll hit that again so you can see it. It just has more clarity. I can see the edges and the ridges. Now this is a semi-low light situation. It's still in light, but we don't have a bright amount of light. But I can tell you, for my eye, the iPhone 5 definitely is a much better image and much more clear clarity, and color-wise is better. Now what is interesting too is you can see the brick wall better in the background on the Samsung. So there's much more balance there, where actually the iPhone is blowing out the back area of the brick wall. So that's kind of interesting as to how both of them take the dynamics of their picture. You can also see on the Samsung, on the right area here, you can see more of the background, where if you look at the leaves, in fact you can see it very clearly here, you look at the leaves between these two, the Samsung, you can't see the details of the leaves, where on the iPhone 5 you can. So it's interesting how both these phones operate. Here is a completely blacked out situation where we're taking a photo flash in a dark room, and so this is completely blacked out, and then we shoot the flash. You can decide which one of these pictures is better. Both of them, the colors do pop on them, and it looks like we're getting blowback from the flash a little bit on the iPhone, where not as much with the Galaxy Samsung. Like I say, it's really up to you to decide which thing you like better. Many people seem to have different ways they like to look at things. Now, one thing we did enjoy more about the iPhone 5 is that when we put it in lamp mode to light up a video, it starts the lamp, which is really nice because you can set your shot ahead of time and you can also see what you're looking at. In our case, it was a completely blacked out room. One of the problems we have with the Samsung is it does not turn on the lamp until you hit the shutter button to begin recording your video. So you can see here there's a lot of blowout that we're getting back from the lamp, and the iPhone 5 is very focused on its images from what you can see, and of course it's a much richer video in a low light, and this is actually a blacked out light situation between the two devices. So the iPhone 5 easily wins in this case, especially in my mind. And once again, we'll let you decide, the reader at home. So that's it for the Samsung. We like both the photos that each of the devices take, and of course I like both phones. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. There was one benchmarking that we wanted to do with a web browser called BrowserMark. Unfortunately, I guess there's so many people testing and using it, it's been down for the last 24 hours, the site, and can't get any of the results that we were looking for to provide to you. So if you get a chance, go to BrowserMark or search for it on Google, and you can do your own tests at home. Anyway, we love both phones. I still am in love with the Galaxy Samsung S3, you know, largely because I love the big screen. I do love the customization a little bit more, but I love the big giant screen. It's just beautiful, huge, and I'm a guy. I like big TVs, I like big screens. That's just the guy in me. Now, some of my friends that are girls, they don't like how big it is. They like something a little bit more petite, a little bit more small. I do love the bigger iPhone 5. I do find myself enjoying it more and enjoying playing on it more, watching video games or playing video games and watching Netflix and stuff. But, you know, honestly, if I have to choose between the two when I go out walking the dogs and I want to watch Netflix or Hulu Plus or my football rewind, NFL rewind, I'm going to take my Samsung Galaxy S3 because I want to see what the hell's going on. So, it's really hard for me to decide between both these two phones as which one's better. I'll let you decide at home as to which one works the best for you, and of course that's why we do these videos. Be sure to check out all the videos we're doing. We're breaking down the iPhone 5 in a million different videos, and also we're doing comparisons with a million different phones, literally a million, exactly, to be exact. I'm kidding. So be sure to check that out. We, of course, have all the major carriers sending us phones, so be sure to check out all the different phones we'll be reviewing here in the near future. Thanks to AT&T for providing the Samsung Galaxy S3 for us so that we could get a chance to review their awesome product service network. Be sure to check out their website at amzn.to. That's amzn.to. Chris Voss tested, Chris Voss approved. Tell them Chris Voss sent you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.